Thank you for hosting me here and the opportunity to speak. I will start with this kind of tagline and I will come back to the intro in a second. I'll be talking about models and the models in the platform engineering. And the reason why I find the models so interesting is that they bring clarity and that they do it in a very surprising way. The models remove information and remove noise from the context, from the situation, and by removing things, they remove distraction and they make things that remain more visible and cleaner to kind of easier to think about. So that's why I'm so interested in models, and over the years I developed a couple for my own use, and I want to share them with you, and hopefully you can find them useful. But now let's talk about a little bit Sabre. I'm with Sabre, so let's share a few things about Sabre. Jim mentioned we are the company that supports the airlines and the agencies and the hoteliers. We are in the travel business. We support 400 airlines, 50,000 travel agencies. And if you look at the infrastructure, so to kind of give you some sense of the size of the infrastructure, if you look only on the public APIs, we are serving 60,000 transactions per second. That gives you some size. We are not Google size, but this is above average size of the API calls. From the size of our engineering group, we got around 300 product teams. The reason I'm sharing this is I'm proud of working at Sabre and happy, and like Jim mentioned, if you are interested, check us out. But there's another reason is most things I'll be talking about, they're universal, and that doesn't matter if you are a small or big company. But some things may vary. So this is the context this is my context. This is where I work. If your organization is 100 times bigger or 100 times smaller, things may work a little bit differently. So take this into consideration and kind of keep this in mind. About me, my name is Jacek Ostrowski. I lead platform engineering at Sabre. I've been with Sabre for 17 years, and for past 10 years, I've been building the platforms. During my career, I started as a developer. I did some SRE work. I was enterprise architect, system architect, enterprise architect. Then I moved to product management, specifically platform product management. Then I led a team of product management, and I'm leading the platform, and I see myself as influencer. So this is kind of my background. As you can see, I can wear multiple hats, and kind of this background helps me to see things from various angles. And I hope that this, my kind of what I'm going to share, you will find useful here. So one thing to kind of keep in mind, like I mentioned, those are my experiences from working at Sabre. And I hope that you find them useful, but your mileage may vary. Your situation may be different than ours. So I'm sharing what I was using. Hopefully, you can find you can relate to some of this. Ask me questions. At the end, I will. If you have something to add to the topics that I'm discussing, I would definitely like to hear from you. If you agree or disagree, let me know. I definitely, like Jim mentioned, this is about sharing, helping each other. So if you have something to say about you disagree with something, let me know. I'm really interested to learning from you as well. So that's kind of the intro. Now let's talk about stuff. So the first model or first pattern I see is, I call it pull and push. And you will see in a moment why. This is about the dynamic. I often see that this dynamic is related to two biggest groups that we encounter in the platform engineering. The first group are the users, so the Scrum teams or the product teams. Those teams, they are working on our commercial products. They have their goals, their needs, and so on. And they are using the current technology, and usually they want us to fix something. They're not looking for the revolution. They are looking for kind of case and type of the improvement. Something is not working, some process is awkward, or some tool is outdated, and they want us to resolve those issues. So this is kind of very natural. We see this often. They want platform to fix their problems. And that's fine. The other group, there is another group, important group in the platform in our world, and this is the C-suite, so the senior leaders, like CTO, CIO, CISO. those people don't focus on the current needs and the current state. They look ahead. They are working on a different time horizon. They look year, 2, 3, 5 years in the future. And what they often see there are the problems and the challenges ahead. And so they are trying to kind of anticipate where the organization needs to go. What they often see is the difference between the current state and the future state. And they want to kind of address this gap. There is a gap, and they want to close this gap. And what often happens is they want a platform to close the gap, to kind of transform the organization from one state to another. So here you got two most important groups of people working with platform engineering and platforms, having two different expectations about what platform can do. This is hard to kind of compile together. The sad thing, or kind of bad thing, is that there is no clear answer how to address it. But because this is very contextual, everything depends on your application, on your organization, where you have been, where you're going, what are your customers doing, what is your industry doing, your competition doing. So I don't have like a gold rule that go 50% or the 20% closer to the leaders and you'll be good. It doesn't work that way. The good part is the only thing that my recommendation here is there is no good or wrong answer. You need to make a decision. The only wrong thing to do here is to ignore the problem. You have to decide, and you have to work with your leaders to find the balance. This is the right thing to do. And it doesn't matter if you pick closer to teams or closer to leaders' needs. The wrong thing to do is not to do anything about this kind of problem. Have this conversation and make this this decision explicit. If you go, and there are consequences, so you basically understand what would happen. If you lean toward the team needs, you'll get easy adoption because you are solving their problems. If you lean toward the leaders' needs, you will have a better or a faster transformation at the cost of adoption, probably. I don't know what your needs are. You probably may not know at the very beginning. The point is like you have to kind of think about this and plan for it. Okie dokie. That was the first one. Let's move on to the next one. Standardization. If you did any reading about the platforms, you probably read, the same sentence. Platforms and standardization are often called in the same sentence. Standardization is great. The kind of view or the goal to have one platform, one solution, this is a great North Star. Standardization simplify things. Things are more predictable, easier to think about, cheaper. You can automate, and you can kind of apply things across and solve multiple things at once. So this is great. Standardization is a great directional goal. The problem is that standardization at the same time could be expensive. Because if you have something working and you want to kind of change your logging or some whatever solution that is already in place, you are adding work before the standardization happens. So you have to work with the teams that you have to do some work that is not and that may be kind of disruptive for those teams. And that there is a cost, there is a time, and there are some opportunities that could be affected. The good part is that you should not look at this in the terms of kind of black and white binary. Like one platform, one solution is a great goal, but we should be more pragmatic and recognize that going from dozen to 5 is a good progress. So even doing small steps like decreasing optionality from dozens to a handful is a great progress. So that is definitely something that you should consider and you should account for. Another thing to kind of on this subject, another is that standardization is not a goal; it is a solution, and the goal is to be faster, decrease the cost or decrease complexity. So if you treat the standardization as a means to this end, you should account kind of when thinking and the planning standardization, you should think in the terms of, what's the effort, what's the benefit, and basically approach with the ROI approach. It's good to have the goal to will standardize everything, but put an effort behind that. That's second thing. So consider those effort and cost and do some kind of math behind that, because not always doing this, there is a time, and not always this is the having the opportunity to do it in the platform. It is not always doesn't mean that you have to do it in straight away. There's one more aspect of standardization that I think is good to mention, is that if you embark on the standardization, and if this is kind of associated with your platform or with your platform engineering group, that may kind of create a friction between and your primary users, so the Scrum teams. Because what's happening is, like, no Scrum team ever asks us, okay, I want to have more standardization. Standardization is a benefit for the people that are managing multiple teams, like a CISO, like a CTO, CIO, and VP of engineering. But single team does not see the benefits of standardization, may not see, and most likely when they will be asked to switch from one version of something to different version of the same thing, they may not see this as a help. They may see this as distraction. So by embarking on standardization, you're kind of creating a friction between you and your leader and your users. So be aware of that. There's a better approach, and usually doesn't get enough coverage and enough light. So let's talk about leverage. Leverage, in my mind, this is something that's, and the platforms are well suited for leverage. I see this is the approach where we are finding the work that is done by the teams, by the product teams, by Scrum teams, and we push it to platform. This is all frequently called like shift down. You basically find a type of work that is done by each Scrum team or multiple Scrum teams or people in those Scrum teams. That work is usually something around toil or something that is not related to the business domain, because you don't have a business domain skill set in the platform, but something that is related to the SDLC or something around infrastructure. And you find this work and you shift it to the platform teams, and you do it in the central place. You can automate it, you doesn't have to automate, but basically you are stealing work from the teams and you're moving it to your own group. The beauty of this is, from the kind of interactions with your teams, you are helping them, because you are taking work from the team and you make it on your own. So they will recognize this as your team helping them to be successful. Example could be like, let's say that you don't know that your teams, you're running Jenkins. Each team is running on Jenkins. If you can replace the team level Jenkins with like a managed Jenkins or managed CI as a service, that's this type of the work that you basically shift down to the platform. It could be done with the centralized managed solution, or it could be done through different ways, like abstraction, when you create some interface and you're hiding details, and then you can manage the, changing the underlying implementation when you need to. Overall, this is very useful model, because what you can do is you can, even if you don't, automation is your end goal, but you don't have to automate. You basically, what you can do is, once you take the work into your organization, into the platform, then you can look to simplify it. So if the teams were doing something, each team did it somehow different, and you can then look at can we change the process around this? Can we look at, when we look at the bigger picture and the work across multiple teams, we can see patterns, we can automate things, and we can simplify. But the flow should be like, first you start, identify work that can be removed, simplify and automate at the end. I've seen cases where we didn't automate, we still kept this semi-manual. It was not a big, it was like a effort of like 2 weeks per year. So this is something that it did not require automation. But because we took some work into the team, we were able to do like 100 times more, 100 times lower effort, in terms of hours, comparing to keeping this at teams, because we did it one team and there was some expertise in the team, and work was more repetitive. Overall, I believe that this is more, it has a bigger potential than standardization, because we are kind of decreasing the work. You are not adding work to teams. Okay, let's switch topics a little bit. Value. Value is another kind of topic that requires some attention, because the key, the unique thing about working in platforms, and this is similar to working with any internal team, is that we don't have revenue. We don't have a clear way of measuring value that we are delivering, and that forces us to be a little bit creative. And the value is important because there are two main reasons, or kind of two main ways to have this clarity of the value that we are kind of generating. First, if you are starting a platform, if you are building, or if you want to secure the priority or budget, or people, you need to kind of express the value that platform is generating. It can be done at the beginning. It may need to be done every year, depending on your cycle. Everybody is under pressure. All the teams all the organizations have more work to do, usually the limited resources. So having a clear understanding of the value that platform is generating is important in securing the budget and priority. So this is one. So this is kind of external. This is how you use with the leaders and the key stakeholders. And the second way of kind of using, where the clarity of the value that you provide is useful, is if you want to run a high performance organization and you want to kind of adopt this mindset when you do something and you validate that expected outcomes materialize. So this kind of feedback loop. If you have well-defined value, you can start with hypothesis that I want to do something, and by doing this is what I'm expecting to see, and then you'll check if what you expected to see happens. So you kind of need to have this way to measure or assess the value, so we can create the feedback loop. Usually those two are slightly different, connected by different, and I will talk about this in a second. So the first kind of source of value for the platforms is productivity. All sources that talk about platform engineering and platforms, list productivity like almost as a synonym of platform. And this is true. There is a lot of opportunities in platform to boost productivity, but the trick is that productivity is hard to define and hard to measure. You can use frameworks like Space or other similar, but those frameworks require you to compile a lot of metrics, and this is difficult. It is difficult, especially when you are starting. But the good news is that there are like easier alternatives. There are some ways to go around that. One of the things you can do to define kind of express value, especially when you are starting, and especially when you are in the model, when you are trying to influence others, peers or your leaders, and you want to show the opportunity behind the platform, is to use DORA. DORA research, and I'm not certain, I think it was 2018 or 19, provided information, kind of documented that improving the DORA maturity by one level results with 5 extra, increasing the time spent on new features by 5%. This is, if you're looking for a business case for a platform, this is a business case kind of for you. So 5% of the investment you have, your organization has on the building products, and and you can translate that in dollars. So this is pretty easy. This is a good way to express the potential of the platform and kind of justify it, and build a case for it. The downside of this approach is DORA is a lot. Those 4 DORA metrics, those are the lagging indicators. You cannot use to run your organization, because by the time you did something, it will take half year or more to see the improvements of those for key metrics. So in order to run the feedback loop inside your group, you need something different, something that is leading. Luckily, DORA, as part of the DORA research, they documented DORA capabilities. If you go and give me a second, I did open it. If you go to DORA.dev, there is a list of the catalog of capabilities, and those capabilities, DORA documented that improving those capabilities predicts improvement of the DORA metrics. So what you can do in order to help with your execution of the platform and the way that you do it, day to day, what you can do is you can pick a couple of those capabilities that you want to improve, and then use metrics that are documented here, and you got let's pick one, something like database change management. Maybe that sounds interesting. And at the very bottom, you got way to measure. So there's a describe how you can measure those things, how you can observe. That gives you leading indicators, and you can use those leading indicators to drive your platform. So that's something that definitely available, and this is something that I would recommend to use. Okay, another source of the value for you is risk management. Risk management is all about understanding bad things that can happen in an organization. What's the likelihood of those things that could happen? What's the impact if they happen? And allocating money or time or effort in order to make them less impactful or less likely to happen. So there is a value. If you can decrease impact of or likelihood of some of those risks, there is a value. So either and so this is something that you can claim as a benefit of the platform. And there are three key sources. Risk management is a very broad topic. There are many things, but there are three areas that platform can significantly help. And those are stability, security, and quality. Everything that SDLC touches, I think this is something that we can assist. Stability, doing smaller releases, more frequent releases, that helps with stability. Shifting security level, doing scanning on as part of the SDLC, or doing fast redeployment to remediate vulnerabilities, or frequent releases to patch some libraries helps with security. Including automated testing helps with quality. Doing some non-functional testing helps with quality, and so on, so on. So there are definitely a number of opportunities. And even if you look at the DORA capabilities, that pages I showed before, they are listing security, quality, and stability as practices there. So there are a ton of information on how can you track those. The one thing to kind of keep in mind here is I would kind of differentiate how we talk about the opportunities. On the opportunity side, kind of value and the opportunities, I would use outcomes. So those lagging metrics, like was the MTTR, or the number of incidents, and so on. And I would not use those lagging indicators to run the internal platform internally for the planning and iteration and setting goals inside the platform. For those, I would again pick something that is leading. I would work with the leaders of the either SRE or a CISO or the people that care about quality, and I would pick some of our areas that they believe that we can help from the platform perspective. I will pick some of those capabilities related to those, and I will track improvement, how we are improving those leading indicators. So I would differentiate that from the how we sell it versus how we deliver it. Because again, working with the lagging indicators would not give you good results. It would be difficult. It would be very messy. Okay. The third and the last area where you can look for the value and how you can kind of help position platform to your peers and leaders and so on is helping product managers build right things, so effectiveness. This may be a little bit, the connection may be a little bit surprising, but stay with me and I will take you through the journey. And the key secret here is that there was a research, and I think that research was published in, Lean Enterprise book. And I think the research was done by Microsoft, but I'm not certain about Microsoft here. The book, I'm certain, I'm not sure that if the source was Microsoft. There was a research that said that in the commercial products that our companies build, 80% of the features are rarely used by end customers and don't have a significant impact in the customer satisfaction. So let that sink. 80% of work that our teams are doing is not that important. The trick is that we don't know which 80%. If we knew that ahead of the game, that we would be able to pick those 20, push those 20, and then pick another 20, and so on and so on. So if we knew upfront which features to prioritize, we would be way better. We would do way better, and we will waste less money and less time. So this is kind of the important kind of input into the story. And the second part of the story is there are ways how can we kind of predict which features are good, which features are bad. This is called lean product management. This is all about experimenting, trying, instead of kind of committing to the roadmap and kind of building something and hoping that people will kind of like it and buy it. We can do better. We can work with our product managers, can experiment with the subset of the clients, kind of do it quickly without much effort, and try things and see if they work. If they work, we double down. If they don't work, we try something else. So this kind of experimentation framework. And this is what lean product management is. This is all about trying things before we commit, before we spend a lot of hours in something. If your organization operates that way, you're good. Platform probably won't help much. But if your organization doesn't work that way yet, the option would be to help your organization adopt this model. And in order to do that, there are two things needed. One is that product management wants to get to some model like this. And the second, it needs to be easy for them to run experiments. And at experiments at the end of the day, they are implemented as part of the code. There are some new features done, and what needs to happen is those features need to be released. You will be running multiple experiments at a time, and it needs to be done. It needs to be easy to do, and it needs to be safe and need to be secure. So this is where the platform kicks in. In order to operate this kind of lean product management experimentation approach at a scale, you need to have a solid platform level support to frequent releases, which is easy to use, fast, and secure. So there's opportunity for you. This is kind of more advanced stuff. This is, you have to get the basics in place, but this is definitely something that is worth mentioning, because this is not something that is often mentioned. This is often ignored. Okay, I think we are done with the value discussions. So let's move on to another topic, which is structure. Platform is not done by a single. This is a team sport. You need to work with people, and usually you have multiple people engaged. And when you have multiple people engaged, you need to kind of think about how they will work together and how to organize that work. Yeah, there is a modern way to do it, and it's good to understand the pros and cons, benefits, and strengths and weaknesses. Based on I try multiple approaches here. Based on my experience, I would recommend to follow the kind of approach that is native to the culture of your organization. So don't take anything out of LinkedIn or don't copy what Google does. don't copy what Sabre does. Find something that works for you, but be aware of advantages and disadvantages. Whatever you pick, just be aware of the good and bad things, and you can address them, you can mitigate them. But the best way is not to make too many changes, not to introduce too much deviation here. So it's easier to work with the default. So with that, I would like to kind of cover three most common ways of running the platform. The first one, I would call it Nike way. Nike had this tagline, just do it. And in this kind of Nike model, you basically take experts, the practitioners, and you put engineers aside, and they fix stuff. This is great because they know what they are doing. Those are the users, those are the engineers that are using the tech stack that you have, your SDLC, and they know what doesn't work. They know what works, and they know how to fix it. This is a great way to start, and you can get quick progress fast without much noise. So this is definitely a good way to get it going, especially if you have nothing there. This is definitely a good option. The key risk is related to the fact that this is done and kind of under the radar, and you may not have a outlook for funding for future years, and that can impact adoption. So teams that are thinking potentially would like to adopt, they may be worried that solution that we are building will cease to exist, or there will be no support next year. So this is something to keep in mind. It's definitely a good model to start with, but I would not run it for long. My recommendation is, like, if you have something like that, try to mature it as quickly as possible, because this uncertainty about funding can hurt you very quickly. So that was one. The second model that I've seen, I think this is very common, running this as a project. This is a default mode in the many organizations, especially if the organization has a kind of project-based culture. It is a model when you have all those artifacts, charters, milestone steering committees, and program managers, and that is a good way to run the platform, because that it helps you. The advantage of this approach is that it can help you secure the support from leadership, priority budget, all those things that you don't have in case of the Nike way. The good part, additional benefit, is that platform tends to create a lot of dependency, because in the platform you usually change many things. You change, you interact with security, going back to those value sources. You touch many things. You have to work with security, you work with network, you work with the cloud infrastructure, you may work with the engineering. So you can create a lot of dependencies. Project managers are great people for managing dependencies. So this is great advantages in terms of execution, because you got some structure around the execution. So that is definitely good. Downside of running this as a project is that there's some overhead related to the process. You have your reports, you have to meet with the steering, prepare the steering committee, go then to the updates, and you have your green, orange, red diagrams or whatever, and then the reports and so on. But this is something, it comes with the whole package. The risk that I would highlight here, the key risk is, I would say, this is related to the fact that the team that is operating a project, they are working closely with senior leaders, as part of the steering committee, and they can gravitate too much toward the senior leaders' opinions. So that's, those are, if those are people like CTO, CIO, and they say something, most people will follow. And so the risk is that the project-based platform will build what the senior leaders asked them to do, not what was needed. So kind of build the wrong thing. There's an easy way to mitigate that kind of risk, and this is all about engaging your users, so the Scrum teams, as early as possible. Before the main launch, start engaging with your kind of early adopters as soon as possible, or even sooner. Show them not the working product, not the working platform, but at least plans. Talk to them as quickly as possible to validate. And you can kind of use their feedback to counterbalance the potentially those strong input from the steering committee. So if you could do it that way, I think that's kind of can even out, and you can mitigate the risk of building wrong thing. There was one more thing to kind of worry, especially in the project kind of approach, is how your project people, program or project manager or people working, with this project approach, how they respond to scope creep. And there are kind of two schools of thoughts. One school of thought is, and I don't want to pick on PMI, but it's hard not to. If you follow PMI, scope creep is a waste. This is something that should be avoided. This is a bad thing. This is a waste of time, waste of money. If you are in the situation where people think that scope creep is wrong, run, because you are in big problem. What you want to hear is that scope creep is opportunity to fix that was wrong. You had the wrong understanding of requirements, you had the wrong understanding of the solution or the problem, and scope creep is basically you are learning late that something was incorrect, and this is your opportunity to fix. If your team thinks about scope creep in the terms of like, we learned something, let's kind of adopt that. I'm glad that we learned this before a disaster. You are in the good place and you are good to go. And overall, using a project to run your platform is acceptable. It can work well. It's all about people, not the process as much. So make sure that you have like-minded people, and they can they can adopt change and they can respond to this change. Okay, so that switching to the last kind of option for the structure, and this is the most popular these days, is platform as a product. That it has been popularized, I don't know, like 8 or 9 years ago, and it was gaining traction since then. The whole idea is we take the product management practices applied to internal product and treat our internal users, our Scrum team and product team as internal users. All great. This is great model. And the advantage of this model is that it can help discover problems that were not well understood. So sometimes we see signs and sometimes we see the metrics, but we don't know what's going on. So, having this kind of product mindset when we try experiment and we challenge things, this is a good thing. It can drive us, if we follow this discover hypothesis experimentation approach, we can discover real problems and we can find real solutions to those problems, especially in the cases which are not obvious, which is great. I would definitely recommend for those, if we don't know exactly how to fix, or if we are not sure how to fix stuff, using the platform, the product approach is definitely a good way to go. The disadvantage of this model, or kind of the problem or kind of challenge, is that it has high barrier of entry. And there are two things that make it difficult. One is, in order for this to work well, you need to have a leadership buy-in. If your leadership is expecting platform to be operated as a project, and they expect milestones and times and the output kind of focus on the activity reporting, and you want to run it as a product, this will fail. It will be a mess. So if you don't have a clear support from leadership, from your steerco, that you're looking at the product and you're tracking the success from the outcome perspective, combining those two will be problematic. The second prerequisite to make it work is you need to find a platform product manager, and this is difficult. And it is difficult because product managers, those experienced product managers usually gravitate toward commercial products, because this is where the money is. This is where where the glory is. In the internal platforms, there is all the nerds and all the technology. This is not as attractive for the product managers. The career is limited, it is difficult, and because the domain is technology, and you have to be very good at the technology. You need to go way deeper in technology than any other product manager. So it's hard to find a good product managers, platform product managers. If you have one, they may be worth their weight in gold. So protect them and make sure that they are happy. The key risk following this approach, the platform as a product, I would call it that this is, if we take this analogy of the platform, the product too far. For example, if we look at this, if we create, often we see the analogy that platform is like a B2C. We have customers or the users, our teams are the users, and we are serving the users. This is a good analogy. This is but this is oversimplifying things. Optimizing for the needs of the single group, like Scrum teams, can lead to problems, because the customer is the whole organization. Scrum teams, this is the biggest group, but there are other groups. Those groups include security, SRE, CISO, CTO, potentially some legal people. There are multiple roles that would be underrepresented, and their goals and needs may be ignored, and that could lead to problems. The way to mitigate this problem, this risk, is very easy. Basically, make sure that your product managers map the needs of all those groups. As needs of security are represented, needs of SREs are covered, and so on, so on, so on. Once that is done, then it will be easier, because then we will see the trade-offs that need to make. Sometimes we will very quickly see that sometimes solutions that are good for the single Scrum team may be very problematic from the perspective of security or SRE. So basically account for those differences, and that would be addressed. Overall, this is a great way of structuring platform and executing platform, but it has some kind of higher barrier of entry. Moving on, and I think last topic for today, and the last model is pioneers. If you have, I'm referencing here the model that was popularized by Simon Wardley. I hope that you heard about Simon. If you didn't, go check out this link, and there's a free book available on I think this is online. And then what he did, he described this kind of idea that people can be, we can look at people from the perspective how they want to work, and how they deal with uncertainty. We got pioneers that strive in the high uncertain environment. They are happy to experiment. They are like a startup people. Imagine that this is like a startup people, and they are great with trying things and failing and trying again, and so on and so on. So they are good in this kind of things that things are not defined, and they are great in exploring, like name suggests. And on the other hand, we got town planners, which are the total opposite. They want everything to be precise, everything to be controlled, no uncertainty, everything documented, everything well understood, no uncertainty whatsoever. And we got settlers somewhere in the between. So this is what Simon was documenting, that people like, this is a model, this is oversimplifying things, but it's good to think about this way, because some people have a different preferences and so on. How that connects to the platform engineering? The connection is as follows. Platform engineering kind of originates from the DevOps movement and Ops, which means that those are the areas that are usually attractive for town planners. Those are the people that like to do operations. This is basically town planners. You operate things at scale. You want to have everything set up, no variability, limited risk. And those are the people that in the past were probably you were on phone, on call, assisting in the middle of the night with the outages. And they don't want anything, they want to prevent those things from happening again. So DevOps is, town planners heavy. If you want to run like a lean product management practice and you want to experiment, you are looking for pioneers. People that can try things, experiment quickly. They will not spend months documenting. That can, they can do an experiment in hours and move on. So you don't want town planners to be your people that are working on the lean practices. You want the pioneers. The problem is, like, if you don't have a pioneers, what to do? You are stuck. So the kind of advice here is, don't force your town planners to act like pioneers, because this will fail. You cannot convince, people don't have a limited amount of the changes that can make. So don't force people to act outside of their kind of default modes, because that won't work well. And the second advice is, if you can, kind of look around. Maybe you can hire somebody. Look for those. If you want to run, especially if you want to run a platform as a product with experimentation and all of the goodies around it, basically you have to hire people outside of the DevOps world. Look for people that are hackers, and in this good sense, and hire them and protect them. And I think that was the last topic for today. So I would say thank you.
All right, and yes, thank you to Jacek. That there was a question in the chat, but I decided to hold it to the end, and we'll get to it. We'll get to it now. But before we get to the question from Ben, I have a question on not platform, but your presentation platform. Normally, people use SharePoint or Google Slides. I saw a little local host down there at the bottom during such of this. What did you use for your presentation?
I'm using VS Code. This is Markdown, and this is a plugin. I think this one is the old one. This is ASCII Dog Slides. So this is GitDocs.
Oh, excellent.
And there are others. I think I'm about to. I'm having problems with this one. This is old. It is not maintained any longer. I think I'm going to switch to. I think this one. I'm going to try this one, Marp. I think this one is maintained. I like it. Just PowerPoint presentations are great, but I find myself spending too much time tweaking the look and feel and too little thinking about the content.
Yeah.
Here, there's no tweaking. I pick the theme and I go with that, and this is text. That's why I didn't use much pictures, but other than that, this is what it is.
No,
I recommend it.
That's great. Okay, so Ben had a question when you're in the part of the platform early in the beginning, where you had maybe grassroots people that you had to work with, and then you have to work with leadership. So he's wondering if you have any strategies or maybe point of view on effectively communicating with the senior leadership. They need to know what the dev teams. They need to know the needs of the dev teams while you're working on that, building that bridge. That delta between the current state and the future state. Any communication tips? With
I would say, I think I would recommend two things. One is talk to each of you. Find people. Follow the value that you can kind of create. So either see if you want to kind of address it through the stability, security, or productivity, or all of them. Talk to each of those kind of people that represent those for which those things would be important. So like chief of SRE or a VP of SRE, talk to that person in isolation, like one-on-one, and kind of pick their brain. What are the problems? What they, get as much of the context as you can from those one-to-one conversations, and try to map it up. Try kind of pitching some of the things that you can help. Go through the, what platform see if you can pitch those very tangible improvements, something that you can do. So one thing is like what you have to manage is, depending on how the conversation goes, you need to be ready to either show the big picture, that what you can accomplish in 5 years, but at the same time you may need, depending on the person you are talking, you may need to switch what you can do within a month. So have those one-on-one conversation. Try to see if the given like VP of the security, or whatever person you will be talking, what they are looking. Some people will look like they want to get understands. They want to see that you can help them 5 years from now. Some may ask you for help, and they may want to help a month or 2 months or quarter. So have those conversations, talk to them independently, talk about the value that you can deliver, and see if there is a way to get going on the smaller scale. The easiest, it's easy to talk big picture and whole organization, but the best way to do is kind of pick this into smaller pieces, build kind of credentials. And the best way to build your credentials is by doing something, solving some problem, small problem, one team or one problem, and kind of iterate. So that would be my advice.
No, that's good. And maybe to just go back to basics of platform engineering, maybe for those who they're coming at it for the first time. Like what parts do you see as the most important part of defining the platform? Is it the upfront part of the SDLC where you're automated builds and automating tests, maybe baking in application security there, maybe see that like on the front end, to kind of the left of things, or you focus on the runtime production environment? Where are we going to land this stuff? Is it going to be a Kubernetes platform, some kind of other container platform, serverless? Do you have a feel for which area people should focus on, or where you think platform fits more than the other?
Good question. There's no a single answer here. This is, that depends on where you are, what are the needs of your group, what you're doing. So the answer will be different if you are in the private data center. Maybe I think the discussion with the key leaders that represent all those kind of perspectives, like security and the SRE and the cloud and or the infrastructure would help. Because it can happen that the team are looking at the problems in the data center, and your C leadership is already planning to go to GCP, like it happened with us. So I would say understand the context, have those conversations with people, and try to get as much possible. I think there is no single path like do this, do that. I think to understand the DORA research and the kind of the progression. Don't go too fast on with DORA. One of the things that DORA documented is the J curve. If you go too fast, you can make quick progress. You can release more often, but if then the not addressed problems will catch up with you, and you will have problems, incidents, and so on. So kind of don't go too fast. Try to balance this. Potentially focus more on the testing. All the CI/CD is primary about making sure that you got good quality, and quality including security and so on. So it's hard to kind of give you a straight answer. I would stay away from I would not jump on technology. We all love technology. Most of us, I think, there have a technology background. But sometimes platform can make huge impact by optimizing processes. Removing stuff can be more impactful than adding stuff. So I don't think there is a single answer. I would rather go look not on the slices, if you look at the SDLC, this is a loop. Mm-hmm. This loop can be entangled in steps, but instead of looking at steps, I will see if there is a way to optimize SDLC for a group of people or group of teams. So try to kind of not slice it step by step, but slice it like a maybe like I don't know, Java applications, help Java applications or help applications that are Kubernetes based, or kind of subset of the applications. But everything that would depend on the context and the unique characteristic of your group.
All right. I do have one question. I ask everybody. It's not technical. You may remember it from previous presentation. And I know we have at least one college student on from UNT, kind of an early career question. And, the advice doesn't have to be the same as last time. Maybe you have some new advice, but for people like early career in technology, it may just be early career anything. Anything that you've learned over your years as a technologist that you maybe would have liked as feedback when you were coming out of school? What career advice would you have for any young people on the call?
I would repeat the same answer I gave you last time. Read books. When I was early in the career, I read a lot of technology books. That was great. It helped me kind of build my my skills on the languages, patterns, and all of that. But then I didn't appreciate those kind of soft skills books enough. This is something I will change. Now I'm reading a lot of those soft skills books about stuff. This is something that I highly recommend. Most of the problems we are struggling, they were already described, and this is very things are if after reading enough books you will see patterns over and over. There are similarities. I read not far long ago book that was I think 20 years old and is still relevant. Things on the soft side of the leadership and the soft sides are those things, those thoughts are changing, but they are not changing as quickly as technology. So they are still relevant. Read those books and learn from others.
And a very specific thing on reading, Kenny Kahn is wondering. You did say you're reading on soft skills, but any particular books that you're reading right now that you would recommend?
I recently purchased. I love the books. I'm bad at pronouncing his name. Marty Kagan, the product guru. He wrote Inspired. That was a great book. I read that some time ago or a long time ago. I read Empowered, which was great, and I'm about to start the Transform. I think this is his fourth book. So this series is definitely interesting. Highly recommend. Very inspiring. I haven't read the last one, so this is something that I'm starting. I read Sooner Safer Happier. That was a really good book. It was hard to read, but a lot of content, a lot of thoughts there. Let me see. I recently read the CA/CD Bible, the one that by Just Humble. It was great. I missed that in the past, so I was catching up on the old books, and it's still relevant. There are so many things, and this book is like 10 years or 15 years old, so it was funny to see how relevant it is. So I wonder if there's anything else. I would say that there are some new books on platform engineering. I bought both. I think there's one from Manning and there's one from O'Reilly. I got both. I haven't read them yet. So they're waiting in the queue when I finish the ones that I'm reading now.
All right. So Dan Cohen is he agrees on Sooner, Safer, Happier on that book. And one question from Mary A. Thinking about platform engineering, thinking about AI. Have you thought through how AI can impact platform engineering?
We know that it will. I don't think we have yet fully imagined that. We see some spots. Obviously, code, Gen AI code assistance. That's obvious. But there is more to it. The AI will definitely change. We see that this will change. We don't know yet how. There's a lot of exploration at this point. I think I haven't seen anything very concrete. One area that is kind of exploding right now is the AI assisted troubleshooting, based on the metrics, based on the run books, kind of mesh up of the science and the procedures and stuff. So there's a lot of happening in this space. I haven't seen much on the one area that even there are a few areas that are to be more, if we look at the change management or kind of understanding on the kind of predicting potential impact of the changes based on the commits. So if we look at the commits, we can kind of we can use Gen AI to understand the significance of the delta on the code commits. One of the teams inside Sabre did a POC in the last hack day, and there was a internal product kind of POC type of the product that we have that is helping us to reason about the change based on the Git commit. So I think there is definitely potential. I don't think we have much happening right now, but I think this will not take long before this is kind of more crystallized.
Mm-hmm. A lot of times when I think about platforms, I think about delivering code. Tyler has a question on are there ML ops changes in the future, maybe after the AI development question. But have you on the Sabre platform, have you tried to do any ML ops, feed that through the platform, and any experience to relay there?
So I'm personally not engaged much, and we have other team in labs that is the Sergey's group. They are doing. They are more focused on the ML, and they are kind of a little bit isolated. So this is kind of taken. This is kind of it started sometime last year.
Mm-hmm.
They are going through those. To the kind of early phases, so
Mm-hmm.
I don't know much, so I cannot share much, but I know there are discussions about how there are some unique needs of access to production data. This is something that in the development you don't have access to production data, and that creates the new challenges. So this is definitely something that will require attention, but I haven't been exposed to that much to it.
All right, yeah, thanks for that. So I think that's enough questions. There's been lots of thank yous in the chat flying by. Saying great job, nice presentation.